Back in June 2016, writer Randall Wallace mentioned that he and Gibson had started creating a follow-up to The Passion of the Christ. This new movie will be about Jesus coming back to life and what happened around that time. In 2018, Caviezel shared that Gibson had given him the third version of the script. The title was said to be The Passion of the Christ Resurrection, and Caviezel thought it might become the biggest movie ever. Then, in July of the same year, Gibson talked about having two script versions in progress. One is more down-to-earth, while the other explores different worlds and includes angels that fell from grace in hell. Later, Caviezel mentioned that even though the production had been delayed, they were still working on the script. He confirmed that Gibson is actively working on the project and said that filming might start in the fall of 2023. Caviezel also shared that they're planning to turn the story into 2 or 3 more movies. So with a new movie or maybe movies on the horizon, come new controversies, as was the case with the last one. So what were those controversies that hit the first part? Let's discuss. The first one was about questions of historical and biblical accuracy. Even though some people criticized Gibson for adding things that weren't in historical records or the Bible's accounts of Christ's crucifixion, there are scholars who defend the film and say it's not really trying to be historically accurate. A biblical scholar named Mark Goodacre pointed out that Gibson never actually said the movie was historically true. Gibson himself said that his main goal was to stay true to the story while not going against the scriptures. As long as it didn't contradict that, he felt he had some room to use artistic creativity and fill in gaps with logic and imagination. For instance, there's a scene where Judas Iscariot is shown being tormented by demons that look like children. There's another scene with Satan holding a weird-looking baby during Christ's flogging. This is kind of twisted because it takes something pure and beautiful, like a mother and child, and makes it strange. Gibson explained that it's meant to show evil messing with good things. When asked if the movie was faithful to the New Testament, Father Augustine Di Noia from the Vatican's Doctrinal Congregation said that the film isn't a documentary but stays true to the main structure found in all 4 accounts of the Gospels. He also said the film is completely faithful to the New Testament. Another one was the disputed papal endorsement. Back in December 2003, a co-producer of The Passion of the Christ, Stephen Macavity, showed a rough version of the film to Archbishop Stanislaw Dziwisz, who was the Pope's secretary. Pope John Paul II watched the film in his private apartment that night with Archbishop Dziwisz, and they later met with Macavity and Jan Michelini, the movie's assistant director. After watching, Macavity claimed that the Pope said it was as it was, which was reported by Wall Street Journal columnist Peggy Noonan. The Vatican's press office head, Joaquin Navarro-Valls, confirmed this statement in an email response to Noonan's inquiry. However, a dispute emerged when an anonymous Vatican official denied that the Pope had made any declaration or judgment about the film. This led to confusion, with some defending the original reporting while others questioned it. Columnist Frank Rich of the New York Times suggested that this statement was being used to promote the film. Despite the controversy, the film's representative suggested that the Pope's support remained consistent with the initial statement. After further communication with Archbishop Dziwisz, Navarro-Valls confirmed that Pope John Paul II had indeed seen the film and released an official statement that emphasized the movie's nature as a cinematic portrayal of the Gospel's accounts of Jesus Christ's Passion. In the midst of the debate, Peggy Noonan highlighted the importance of the truth and the significance of the Pope's words, particularly considering the film's controversial aspects. She noted that the Pope's previous stance against anti-Semitism and his call for religious dialogue and respect added weight to his potential comments on the film. This one is the biggest and most controversial one: allegations of anti-Semitism. Before The Passion of the Christ was released, there were strong criticisms regarding what some perceived as content that could promote anti-Semitism. This concern led 20th Century Fox to decide not to distribute the film. This decision was influenced by a protest outside the News Corporation building, as well as the advice of New York Assemblyman Dov Hikind. Hikind warned other companies against distributing the film, stating that it could negatively affect Jewish communities worldwide. A committee consisting of the Secretariat for Ecumenical and Interreligious Affairs of the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops and the Department of Interreligious Affairs of the Anti-Defamation League obtained an early version of the script before the film's release. They issued a statement expressing deep concerns about the script's potential for promoting anti-Semitic ideas. They highlighted that the main storyline portrayed Jesus as being pursued by a group of Jews led by the high priest Caiaphas, and that his storyline had historically fueled anti-Semitism in Christian societies. This narrative contradicted the stance of the Roman Catholic Church at Vatican II and many Protestant churches that had rejected such ideas. The committee indicated that unless the film's storyline had been altered, it could risk undoing the progress made by religious institutions over the past decades in rejecting classical Christian anti-Semitism. They also pointed out that the film's director Mel Gibson was associated with a fringe Catholic group that did not fully adhere to the teachings of Vatican II or modern biblical scholarship. This raised concerns about the film's potential impact on perceptions of anti-Semitism within its audience. The Anti-Defamation League also issued a statement about the film before its release, emphasizing the importance of filmmakers combining their artistic vision with sound scholarship. This would involve understanding how the biblical Passion accounts have historically been used to target and criticize Jews and Judaism. The ADL expressed concern that without such scholarly and theological understanding, productions like The Passion could distort history and contribute to animosity against Jewish people. Rabbi Daniel Lapin, head of the Toward Tradition organization, criticized the ADL's statement, suggesting that it implied disavowing one's faith was the only way to avoid criticism from the ADL. Reviewing the film, Cathopolit in The Nation criticized the portrayal of certain characters and the film's adherence to guidelines set by the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops for the portrayal of Jews in depictions of the Passion. On the other hand, Jesuit priest William Fulco S.J., who served as the film's translator from Hebrew dialogue, disagreed with concerns about the film accusing the Jewish community of deicide. In The Guardian, Jewish biblical scholar Geza Vermes provided a highly critical review, deeming the movie historically inaccurate and likely to inspire anti-Semitism. He pointed out perceived issues in the film's depiction of characters and events that could be misinterpreted and contribute to negative sentiments. One scene in the film that attracted controversy was the dialogue of Caiaphas, particularly the line, "His blood is on us and on our children," which has historically been interpreted as a curse aimed at the Jewish people. Certain Jewish groups requested its removal from the film. Though the subtitles were removed, the original dialogue remained on the Hebrew soundtrack. Mel Gibson defended his decision to keep this scene, believing it was meaningful and a true representation of the story, rather than a direct curse on Jews. Accusations of the film's anti-Semitism intensified after Gibson's 2006 arrest, during which he made derogatory remarks about Jews to the arresting officer, further fueling concerns about his attitudes towards the Jewish community. The last major criticism was the criticism of excessive violence. A.O. Scott, writing for the New York Times, expressed his view that the Passion of the Christ is heavily focused on the brutality of Jesus' final hours, which seems to stem more from wrath than love. He suggested that the film's emphasis on violence can be more spiritually distressing than uplifting. David Edelstein, a film critic for Slate, characterized the film as a 2-hour and 6-minute snuff movie, drawing parallels to horror films like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Edelstein criticized Gibson for prioritizing the portrayal of Jesus' suffering over his teachings and spiritual message. In a similar vein, writer Michael Gurnow of American Atheists in 2008 also referred to the film as a mainstream snuff film, echoing the sentiment that the excessive focus on violence overshadows other aspects of the story. However, critic Armand White offered a different perspective on the violence depicted in the film. In his review for Africana.com, White noted that while violence often sells in cinema, Gibson's portrayal was meant to evoke a sensitive and personal response to violence, rather than glorifying vengeance. In an interview with Diane Sawyer, Gibson explained his intentions behind the film's graphic portrayal of Jesus' crucifixion. He aimed for it to be shocking and extreme in order to convey the magnitude of Jesus' sacrifice and to show his ability to endure suffering, ridicule, and pain while still embodying love and forgiveness. Gibson acknowledged that the actual crucifixion was even more violent than depicted in the film, but he believed that toning it down would lessen its impact. As we anticipate the Passion of the Christ resurrection, the controversies surrounding its predecessor still echo, Balancing creativity and respect for faith, history, and accuracy is a challenge. What lessons can be applied from past controversies as the new film explores Jesus' resurrection? Your thoughts?